what happens when the wrong person gets thrown out of an exclusive restaurant. Tonight, you'll witness the moment when judging by appearances backfires spectacularly. This isn't just about revenge. It's about dignity, worth, and a truth that will shake you to your core. Hannah Parker adjusted her beige cardigan as she approached Boston's most exclusive restaurant, the Crystal Palace. At 34, she carried herself with quiet confidence, her practical clothes reflecting her values rather than her bank account. Clay still clung to her fingernails from pottery class. She hadn't planned to dress up tonight. This was supposed to be simple. Secure an anniversary reservation at the place where she and her tech innovator husband, Michael, had their first date 14 years ago. The restaurant gleamed before her. Crystal chandeliers, pristine white tablecloths, Boston's elite dining in designer attire. Hannah pushed through the heavy glass doors. Victoria, the maitre d', swept her eyes over Hannah's casual appearance, her expression narrowing. "Good evening. I'd like to make a reservation for next Friday," Hannah said warmly. "I'm afraid we're fully booked for 3 months," Victoria replied dismissively. Before Hannah could respond, Richard Hammond, a flashy real estate developer, approached the desk. "Victoria, my usual table isn't prepared properly," he complained, ignoring Hannah completely. "Right away, Mr. Hammond," Victoria responded, her demeanor instantly transforming. Hammond glanced at Hannah dismissively, then leaned toward Victoria in a stage whisper. "I thought this establishment had standards. Since when do we let just anyone walk in off the street?" Hannah felt heat creep up her neck, but maintained composure. "As I was saying, it's for our anniversary. Perhaps I could speak with the manager." "Listen," Hammond interrupted. "This isn't some casual diner. People wait months for reservations. They dress appropriately." He gestured at her clay-stained jeans with distaste. "I understand the restaurant's prestige," Hannah replied steadily. "I'm only trying to make a reservation, not dine tonight." Hammond snorted. "Victoria, please handle this situation." Several diners watched with thinly veiled amusement as Hannah turned back to Victoria. "I apologize for the interruption. About the reservation." "Perhaps I wasn't clear," Victoria cut her off. "We simply don't have availability." Hannah reached for her wallet. "I'm prepared to place a deposit." Victoria held up her hand. "It's not about deposits. The Crystal Palace caters to a certain clientele. We have standards to maintain." The implication hung heavy. Hannah's cheeks burned with indignation. "I see. Those standards are based on appearance, not character. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the bistros down the street," Victoria suggested coldly. From his table, Hammond raised his voice. "Some people simply don't understand their place. This isn't a soup kitchen." The manager, Elaine, approached with practiced authority. "Is there a problem?" "This woman was just leaving," Victoria replied smoothly. "Actually, I was trying to make a reservation for a special occasion." Hannah began. "Madam, I must ask you to leave. You're disturbing our guests," Elaine interrupted condescendingly. "I'm simply trying to make a reservation. How is that disturbing anyone?" Elaine moved closer, her voice a threatening whisper. "Either you leave voluntarily, or I'll have you escorted out." Hannah stared in disbelief. "Is this how you treat all potential customers, or just those without designer clothes?" "We have the right to refuse service to anyone who doesn't meet our standards," Elaine declared. "Thomas," she called to a young server, "please escort this woman out." Thomas approached reluctantly. "Ma'am, if you could please come with me." Hannah remained rooted. "You're actually throwing me out for trying to make a reservation while dressed comfortably?" "We're maintaining our atmosphere," Elaine replied stiffly. As Thomas gently guided her toward the exit, Hannah tried once more. "My husband is—" "Let me guess," Elaine smirked. "Someone very important. We hear that often." "If you would just let me explain." "There's nothing to explain," Victoria interjected. With dignity intact, Hannah allowed herself to be escorted out. Behind her, Hammond's satisfied chuckle echoed. "Finally, some people are just too poor to stay." At the doorway, Hannah turned back. "You've made a mistake." "The only mistake," Elaine replied coldly, "was allowing you through the door in the first place." Outside in the cool evening air, Hannah pulled out her phone to call Michael. But the distinctive purr of a finely tuned engine caught her attention. A sleek black Porsche 911 glided to a stop directly in front of the restaurant. Hannah's heart quickened. She'd recognize that car anywhere. Michael had finished his meeting early to surprise her. Inside, Victoria's practiced smile froze when Michael Parker entered. At 40, he commanded attention in his midnight blue tuxedo, exuding quiet wealth and confidence. "Good evening," Victoria greeted nervously. "Do you have a reservation?" "I'm meeting my wife," Michael replied, his eyes finding Hannah outside. "May I have the name?" "Parker, Michael Parker." The effect was immediate. Victoria's smile faltered as the name registered in Boston's business circles. "I don't believe we have a reservation under that name tonight," she managed. "That's because my wife came to make one for our anniversary next week." "She just stepped out, it seems." Victoria paled. "Your wife was here?" Blonde hair. Blood drained from Victoria's face as realization dawned. Michael moved past her, opening the door and extending his hand to Hannah. "Everything all right?" "Not exactly," Hannah replied, taking his hand and stepping back inside. The restaurant grew eerily quiet as conversations tapered off, patrons sensing the unfolding drama. Elaine approached quickly, her eyes darting between Michael's expensive attire and Hannah's casual clothes. "Is there a problem?" "Yes," Michael said calmly. "I understand my wife was just asked to leave your establishment. There must be some confusion. We have certain standards." "Standards," Michael repeated, the word hanging like crystal about to shatter. "What standards exactly would prevent my wife from simply making a reservation?" From his table, Hammond cleared his throat loudly. The woman was causing a disturbance. Some people don't know how to behave in establishments of this caliber. Michael turned slowly. And you are? Richard Hammond. I'm something of a regular here. I see, and you felt it necessary to involve yourself in how the restaurant treated my wife. Hammond's confidence wavered as he registered the subtle signs of power Michael carried effortlessly. Yes, Mr. Hammond, my wife, Hannah Parker. Michael's voice remained calm, but the temperature seemed to drop. Co-founder of the Parker Innovation Foundation, board member of the Boston Museum of Modern Art, and the woman who just wanted to make a dinner reservation. Mr. Parker. Elaine finally managed, desperation evident. Please accept our sincere apologies. We would be honored to prepare a table immediately. An elderly couple rose from their table. A woman elegant in understated evening wear. She approached Hannah and Michael. Young man, you are absolutely right, she said, her voice carrying decades of Boston society weight. She turned to the staff. My husband and I have been dining here for 20 years. Tonight confirms what we've suspected. This place values appearances over character. We won't be returning. Thomas stepped forward, removing his server's jacket. Ma'am, I quit. I've been uncomfortable with how we profile guests for months. Tonight crossed a line. As Michael and Hannah turned to leave, Elaine made one desperate plea. Your reservation. We would be honored to host you. Complimentary, of course. Michael paused at the door. The purpose of our anniversary dinner was to celebrate love, growth, and values that matter. I'm afraid those values are incompatible with what this establishment represents. Outside, Hannah slipped her hand into Michael's. That was quite a scene. Too much? He asked uncertainly. Hannah smiled. No, sometimes the world needs reminding that worth isn't determined by appearances. As they walked toward the Porsche, Thomas called out hesitantly, Mr. and Mrs. Parker. They turned, surprised. I wanted to thank you for standing up, not just for Mrs. Parker, but for everyone who's been treated that way but couldn't do anything about it. Michael smiled, extending his hand. Thank you for speaking the truth, Thomas. That takes real courage. Do you have dinner plans? Hannah asked suddenly. No, ma'am, Thomas replied, confused. Then join us. We know a wonderful Italian place where they judge the food, not the guests. As the three walked away from the Crystal Palace, the weight of confrontation lifted. Behind them, through the windows, Elaine addressed her staff with urgent gestures. Victoria sat slumped at her station, and Hammond stood alone, the center of attention, for all the wrong reasons. 3 weeks later, Hannah sat at her pottery wheel, transforming clay into beauty. Michael entered with coffee, sharing news that the board had approved Thomas's proposal for community arts funding. The Crystal Palace had closed briefly for restructuring, eventually reopening under new management with a sign reading, "All are welcome." Sometimes, change happens in dramatic moments, like confrontations in exclusive restaurants. Other times, it occurs quietly through reflection and choice, but meaningful transformation. begins with recognizing that true worth can never be determined by appearances alone. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and share where you're watching from. Have you ever been misjudged based on appearances? Your experiences matter to our community.